Welcome to the Enlightenment Evolution Hour. I am your host, Rob Gauthier, the ET Whisperer. The Enlightenment Evolution Hour is a part of the Enlightenment Evolution Network. Any ideas or opinions expressed by myself, the guest, or a caller may not necessarily reflect the same opinions of the Enlightenment Evolution Network. Enlightenment defined. It's the state of giving and receiving greater knowledge and understanding about a certain subject or situation. Evolution defined. The gradual development of something, especially from a simple to a more complex form. So what then is Enlightenment Evolution? The state of giving and receiving greater knowledge as we develop from a simple to a more complex human being, living on Earth for our soul's experience. Welcome now and join us as we explore our Enlightenment Evolution Hour together. Hey everybody, this is the Enlightenment Evolution Hour. I am your host, Rob Gauthier. We are live streaming tonight here on YouTube on the Enlightenment Evolution Hour Facebook page and the Matrix Mind Facebook page. And we will have these episodes available in archive on Forbidden Knowledge News as well as Conscious Awakening Network. Thank you all for being here tonight. Hello. It is lovely to see all of you here today. We have an amazing guest, great dude, a good friend, someone who I've been on his show a few times, Ryder from Raised by Giants. He will be with us here in just a few minutes, and we're going to chat with all of you guys here in just a few, but we are going to go through the announcements first for both the network, the show, and the ET Whisper. And all these will be pretty short announcements. We've got set up. We only have 2 announcements for the show. On the 14th, we will have Adam and Megan Homan, 2 amazing people. We're going to share some of that energy there. On the 28th, the Matrix Minds and the Enlightenment Evolution Hour are going to do the last show of the year as a simulcast. Both of our shows coming together. Me and Matthew will be together doing that show, broadcasting, talking, doing all the cool stuff that we do on our own shows, but doing it together. It'll be a really fantastic time. We have some guests next year already. Next year, I believe the 4th of January will not be broadcasting a show. I might not. It depends. That's my birthday. So I don't know if I'm going to be on it or not. But the 11th, we have a guest. And either the 18th or 25th, we also have a guest. I believe it's the 18th, which would be Mama Minga, who's an amazing lady, amazing person who runs her own YouTube channel. So we will be announcing those as we come. And it's unfortunate. I've been right up to the moment with all the shows that we're doing. Hello, everybody over there from Facebook at the Matrix Minds. Welcome. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you for being in chat. So the network, the same announcements that I just shared. We're being rebroadcasted and re-archived over on Forbidden Knowledge News Network, which is an amazing network. We have Chris Matthew, who runs that show and runs the network. He has his own show called Forbidden Knowledge News, and a lot of other shows, including this show with our guest tonight, Ryder Lee, Raised by Giants, and a lot of other great shows on that network. And the Conscious Awakening Network is the same place. That's the only place in the world you can watch the channel panel 2017 that had Daryl Anka, Lee Harris, Wendy Kennedy, myself, Kalina, all of us and many more channelers there. All the guests that we've had recently, actually, Daniel Scranton was on there as well. So it's a great video. It's free over at the Conscious Awakening Network. We also want to share that we have a new show there, The Mothership, and we did a rebroadcast of that. That's going to be put up soon too. We're adding it over to the Enlightenment Evolution Hour or the Enlightenment Evolution Network YouTube channel. And yes, there is an Enlightenment Evolution Network YouTube channel. If you like this show, if you want to go watch all the old shows of our network, you can go there. And also for the ET Whisper, our course is done and over. It was officially done as of Monday, the Healing Sexuality course. A lot of amazing channeled material with art if there. We had 4 hours of content and then 4 hours of question and answer for each one of the individuals. And in whole, it was 8 hours about one topic, which is probably the most extensive work that I personally have ever done on one topic in channeling. Usually, one topic gets an hour, maybe 90 minutes. At a workshop, it might get a couple of days with pieces and parts. But this was the first time that it was covered in great detail, and it was a huge amount of information that was there covering sexuality, multidimensional sexuality, healing trauma, finding trauma, a lot of the stuff that's involved with that. Really great thing. So that's it for announcements, guys. I want to bring you back to our guest tonight. Our guest tonight is Ryder Lee from Raised by Giants. And Raised by Giants was presented and produced by Ryder Lee, and it provides a platform for philosophers, researchers, spiritual teachers, authors, contactees, experiencers, channelers, UFO researchers. We can all come together in that community to study, have observations, thoughts, ideas, reflections, and research infusing into the common everyday knowledge and their own understanding on life in the universe. Ryder Lee is interviewing tons of people and hosting an ever growing number of people on his platform, which is also a part of Forbidden Knowledge News Network, which is really great. What he does with the show is search for a deeper understanding of life in the universe and the critical time. You can find him on Rokfin, Spreaker, YouTube, and various other places. But instead of trying to really introduce the man and give you an idea of who he is, it's better just to bring him on. So, welcome, Ryder. Thank you so much for being on the show tonight, brother. I appreciate you being here. The roles have been reversed now, my friend.
I love it. Thanks so much for having me on, Rob. I really appreciate it. And thanks for the opportunity. I'm really excited to dive into all kinds of different topics here.
Well, that's wonderful. And the roles being reversed is a little joke because I've been on the show twice now, and now he's coming here. So he
Mm.
usually is the guy that gets to ask the question. So tonight I'm going to do it. Uh, I always start out the show doing one thing. And I know your story because I know you. We've talked about how you've come into this. You've talked about it on your show, and we'll talk about it here in a little bit. Before we get to that, I want to know what were the events in your life, your childhood, your teenage years, your young adult years, whatever those events in your life were that kind of built you into the molding of the person that you are, that was able to open up to being the Raised by Giants guy, the researcher, the interviewer, the person who wants to understand and know more. What was it in your life that kind of created and molded that?
Well, I think like everybody in this community, whenever you're born, you have like an understanding that this reality isn't right. Like there's something wrong with being here. And I think that that's really how it's really started out for me. And I've talked about this a few times on my show that whenever I was younger and on other people's shows as well, I would see beings come out of the walls at night and surround me every night. And they were like translucent kinds of figures that would just morph out of the wall. And they never hurt me or touched me or anything, but they would get really, really close to me. At one point, I remember like 8 of them being around me all at the same time. And I just kind of kept this to myself. And one time I did tell my mom and my dad, and they thought something was wrong with me. Obviously, I'm from a very small town of people that are, mostly religious. And there's more churches in my town than there is anything. You know what I mean? Churches and banks and pizza places. But I told them, and they thought something was wrong with me, and they were like, "Hey, take him to the eye doctor. Maybe something's wrong with his eyes. He's seeing stuff." And I went to the eye doctor, and the eye doctor was actually really cool. He was like, I think that your son just has like a, maybe some sort of ability or something that's going on with his eyes that he's able to perceive things that normal people can't. And he actually gave me this little flashcard, and he was like, whenever you can make this flashcard, like whenever you can make the things that are printed on this flashcard pop up off of the flashcard, then come back to me. Right. And later on in my life, I realized that being able to do that is actually your third eye. And that's your third eye being like activated. So I kind of came to the conclusion that, I came into this reality with my third eye open because I was able to perceive things that normal people just, couldn't see. And then my life kind of went on. And again, like everybody else, that listens to these types of shows and is in this community, in the spiritual community and the conspiracy community and all of the communities, they felt like that they were kind of psychic growing up. And, indeed I was able to predict things that were going to happen before they would happen. I remember being in my parents' car growing up, and I would be able to tell them the next song that was going to come on the radio before it came on the radio.
Oh, wow.
And it actually got to the point where we didn't listen to anything in the car anymore. We didn't we didn't listen to any music at all. My mom or my pretty much my mom would just shut it off. And just be like, yeah, we're just gonna, just gonna listen to nothing. It's just gonna be silent in the car trip. So then inevitably that kind of shut down within me because I, just stopped talking about it. And then later on, that stuff kind of really stopped happening. Though I did have, some experiences later on where I would receive, visions of the future, like not like far in the future, but just immediate future events where I would be able to tap in and I would see what was going to happen before it happened. And then what woke me up, because I think there's levels to all this. There's levels to the awakening process, right? There's not just one awakening thing that happens where you get all of the knowledge. It's a continuous thing, and there are certain events that happen throughout your life that brings you to another level of the awakening. And a lot of people in the conspiracy community like to say that, the government corruption and a lot of those things that are going on governmentally, and that's not to say that they're not, because they definitely are, but they tend to believe that that's like an awakening, right? But there's a spiritual awakening, and then there's another awakening that's like about the reality that we find ourselves in, which has to do with, the corruption and the monetary system and the three-letter organizations and the government and all of that, right? But what woke me up in the beginning to all of the worldly stuff was a film called Zeitgeist, and this came out, I believe, in 2008, or it could have been earlier than that, but that's when I saw it. It was in 2008, and it really wrapped up everything, right? It had the conspiracies about, 9/11, what was really going on there, and then it had the religious aspect that, Christianity isn't anything special, that there were many previous religions before Christianity that had the exact same makeup of Christianity, that were much older than Christianity. And then at the end, it got into the monetary system and how like our money is basically worthless because there isn't any gold in the Federal Reserve anymore. So it's basically backed by nothing. There's nothing backing our fiat currency anymore because there is no gold left. And whenever we got taken off of the gold standard, that's whenever we just started printing endless money. But anyway, that's another topic. But that was really the first thing that, got my brain turning, because I was not really raised as a Christian, but I held on to Christian values because my mom wasn't. She was an atheist, right? And I was rebellious. I was pretty rebellious growing up, so I turned to Christianity in order to, be rebellious against her. And then that documentary, just really started me down this path. And then a teacher in high school really taught me how to critically think and have common sense and realize that there's more going on than meets the eye. And that's really carried over into every part of my life.
Yeah, that's amazing. And some of the things you were talking about are actually very scary for a lot of people. And that's the thing that a lot of people don't understand. Uh, those types of things that you learned, you started digging into 9/11 and the gold currency, these types of things. I know a lot of the time it gets that label conspiracy theory, etc. But when you look at some of the facts behind some of these things that are irrefutable facts, and they don't match up with the story you've been told for years and years and years, it will make the wheels turn. And then once that turns, you were fortunate enough to have this teacher that says, hey, you need to question everything. And that is a gift in itself. It's a rarity now in school systems. It's a lot of propagandas and a lot of teachings one specific societal thought process, and teaching you, hey, do what we say, answer how we want you to answer. Oh, it's wrong because you didn't do it the way we told you to do it, even though the answer is right. A lot of that is just getting worse and worse progressively each year. So you had all these line up in unfortunate events that continue to progress until all of a sudden you're this person who now has some psychic awareness, an open third eye, the energy behind critical thinking. How does that lead you to be the Raised by Giants guy? How does that lead you to starting your own YouTube channel?
Well, I really wish that I would have done it way sooner than I did. I started in 2020, but it didn't have anything to do with really what happened in 2020 because I was still working. I still had like all that stuff going on. I really could have started it around 2018 or 2017. And I was just collecting all of this information, right? I was just going deeper, even further from the 9/11 conspiracies and everything that was in the Zeitgeist documentary, and I started listening to other people and getting involved in the community more. And I'm like, because I have a pretty good memory. Like I can remember things really well. I can almost remember anything that anyone says to me, right? Almost verbatim, right? I've always had that kind of photographic memory, but it's not a photographic memory. It's actually like a listening memory, right? So that has really carried over well. And I was collecting all of this information and all these things from all the different people that I was listening to. And I'm like, hey, like I can do this no problem, right? Like, and I would actually love to do this. I would actually, I think that I have a lot of value and I can actually dig deep into a lot of these topics because what a lot of people are talking about doesn't make any logical sense, right? Especially in the spiritual community, in the UFO community, in the alien community, the remote viewing. I've dug into a lot of these topics, and I really feel like that I've gotten out a lot of the truth behind them, and that's really been a huge blessing for me because whenever I'm locked onto something, I don't stop investigating it until I'm happy with where I'm at. And right now, currently, I'm digging hardcore into the remote viewing, Army intelligence and DIA programs that were going on during the Cold War and really trying to get to the bottom of that. Because there's so much stuff in this community, Rob. There's so many different things, like people talking about ascension and 5D and all this rainbow fairy tale land. And we see that like with everything. We see what happened with the Q phenomenon. There's a huge stand down psyop. The UFO, the government disclosures, a huge psyop. The super soldiers, the secret space program is just a bunch of disinformation and nonsense, right?
Yeah,
And you have to really dig down deep into these things. But the trick is, Rob, is they put a little bit of truth in there to all of these things, right?
you
They
have to for
they
get people to pay attention. Yeah.
exactly, they sprinkle just a little bit of truth in there to make the lies easier to swallow, right? I had a guest that said that, and I asked him if I could continue to use it because I thought it was genius, and it's exactly what they're doing. I mean, if any of these people had real information, real intelligence information, especially when it comes to the secret space program and these super soldiers, they would not be allowed to talk. They would have the NSA, the DIA, the CIA knocking on their door and being like, hey, what's going on? You're leaking information, right? It would be like Edward Snowden, right? It would be like,
Right. Right.
these people that has actually leaked classified information, like Dr. David Morehouse, which I interviewed on my show, which was a part of the project Stargate, right? He almost got into huge trouble because he wrote a book about the DIA's Stargate project, which was a SAP program, which was a special access program that nobody outside of the program or civilians or anybody had any information about. And he almost got in huge trouble for leaking that information and writing that book, which is called Psychic Warrior. So if any of these people had any real classified information, then they would be in trouble. They would be threatened with prison time, jail time, any of that. So it's nonsense.
In some cases, you see a lot of people who are certified whistleblowers. They wind up dead. I remember one of the people who, and I'm not going to get into specifics because I don't want to ring any alarm bells, but I know one person who was investigating a certain big thing that was in the news recently, from like a year and a half to 2 years ago, committed suicide by hanging and shotgun wound to the chest. Now, I don't know how that works. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? There have been scientists involved in programs that were all committed suicide by hooking electrodes to the metal fillings in their teeth to a car battery. I
Yep.
don't know how all of them would have thought that that was a good way to die. So, yeah, there are definitely penalties, whether they're the extreme versions or just flat out prison time for a lot of people who are actively government members who go outside of the ranks of privacy and the ranks of secrecy that they're documented and agreed upon and contractually obligated to.
Yeah. And not only that, Rob, I don't know how familiar you are with the secret space program assets and these whistleblowers and the super soldiers and stuff, but all of them claim to have been a part of a MK Ultra program, which that is the real part of their testimony. That is basically probably the only real thing that they really talk about,
Mm.
which the CIA was doing MK Ultra studies, and that is verifiable, right? There's 149 declassified files on MK Ultra.
Yeah, it's well documented. They've had files from the tests that they had ran, and people. I remember Canadian household of retirement people or people in some kind of retirement home actually sued the Canadian government for it, 30 years after, and won some money because they could prove that they were actually a part of this MK Ultra programming.
Absolutely, and that's what they did is they subleased it out to Canada after it was supposedly shut down by the CIA. But what they did is they just subleased it to private companies, private organizations to be able to continue on operations without having to actually document it by the CIA. There's an entire subproject on the declassified MK Ultra documents that specifically talks about this. Talks about how they opened up an entire hospital wing in Washington, D.C., that was a part of a regular hospital to do MK Ultra experiments out of. And so they were subleasing a lot of these projects that they were doing to private companies and private organizations, and a big chunk of it went to Canada.
Yeah, I knew that they migrated that process out there after getting exposed in the United States, and I didn't know the specifics, but I did watch a special that went through this specific lady's life and the parts of it that she had been proven on to get. Um, so you're saying that these people who are going through super soldiers, um, secret space programs, you think that because they've openly and admittedly been an MK Ultra personality, or someone who's been victimized that way, that they're creating these experiences from the MK Ultra, that they're projecting these, and if so, have you found out maybe how one would do that or how it would work?
Yes, I have. And that would only be for the ones that's legitimately been through the program, right? A
Yeah.
lot of these SSP whistleblowers and super soldiers have never actually been through a MK Ultra program. The ones that have been through a real MK Ultra program, like Kathy O'Brien, she talks absolutely nothing about any secret space program stuff, right? And she was used on a White House Pentagon level as a uh, um, as like a slave, right? I don't want to say the word because it's, whatever, it's censored
Okay.
type of thing. But she was there to discreetly service presidents, high up politicians, and people like that at a White House level, right? So I think very few of the people that are talking about the secret space program and are whistleblowers for the super soldiers, and I think very few of them have actually been through any actual real MK Ultra program, because their excuse for how they got out of the program. See, people like Kathy O'Brien, she got out because she was saved by somebody from the intelligence community. And she told me, I interviewed her last month, and she said that normally any MK Ultra person that's actually been through the programs, they kill them. They kill them at around age 30. They sacrifice them basically, right? So how are all of these and Kathy O'Brien's story is 100% legitimate. She literally did a testimony to Congress in 1995 about this, and it was um, blanketed under the National Security Act and was never able to go public.
Do
Right,
they
so it's
have
like,
her? Do they have her file there though, showing that she testified, just not what she testified to?
I believe so. Yes,
Okay. Okay, that makes sense.
yeah, it's all in her book that she wrote, and she also did a documentary about this too called Trance. But so if these people actually been through any real MK Ultra programs, then they don't talk about how they got out of them, right? Because there would be a process to get out of them. And Kathy O'Brien was lucky enough that she was actually saved by a member of the intelligence community, saved her and her daughter from being sacrificed, from being killed. And so the excuse for the secret space program and the super soldier people of getting out of the MK Ultra programs is that after they were done with getting MK Ultra and their mind fractured and these alters implanted into their brain to be controlled, they were immediately sent through a jump room to Mars to fight aliens in space for 20 years, and then they were age regressed back to the very point that they were taken. That's how they claimed
Right.
that they
That's
got out of this MK Ultra program, which is completely unrealistic. and doesn't make any common. It doesn't has absolutely no logic or common sense involved in it.
Yeah, that's kind of the story that I've heard from every secret space program person who is doing the runs through there, is that, I did my service for 20 years, then they put me back in either time travel or consciousness projections back into the younger timeline body, or what the case is. Um, and this creates a lot of the people who are in the part of our community that says, no, 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 hold on, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense. Even if you have consciousness technology, and you're able to meditate and astral project, no one's done that ever in the history of humans through a provable way that we've seen known. Even a lot of the stories that come from ETs, extra dimensionals, even people who tend to believe those accounts still are told technology exists to time travel, but you can't change who you are while you're time traveling. So even if someone's willing to go to that end of their belief system, still seems to have a problem with that secret space program theory, and it's because it's a hard pill to swallow. And you're right, logically, it doesn't make a lot of sense, but why do you think so many people still hang on to that then? Because there are a lot of people who follow the work for the secret space program stuff, Corey Goods and everybody who's come afterwards.
Yes, because they've made it a part of their reality and they're hanging on to it no matter what kind of investigative work that you've done onto it. And they've built their entire presence up around this fighting aliens in space and with highly advanced technology, time travel, and portals and stuff like that. That if they were to go back on it, it would make them look like a fool and they wouldn't have any audience. They wouldn't have any kind of backing for it, right? They would just look stupid, right? And a lot of them know this, right? A lot of them know that it's all nonsense, but they keep it going anyway because they have to keep it going because they've built their entire personality, their entire platform up around this secret space program asset and super soldier asset type of scenario. But
Mm.
they
Well,
know without a doubt.
didn't you have a whistleblower on one of your shows that actually talked about one of the more famous members of that community? And forgive me if I'm misquoting this or misremembering, but didn't you have someone speak without their identity, but someone that you know and trust came on to talk about how one of the main figures in our community actually took back their story when they were in a court of law about this, or something to that effect?
Yes, they did. They admitted that the entire thing was basically made up and that it was all, channeled information, which I don't have a problem with, legit, real channelers such as yourself and Anthony from Canadian Awareness. Hello, Anthony. I think you're in the chat, brother. Shout out to you. I just talked to him on the phone earlier today.
Yeah, he was in the chat a minute ago. I'm not sure if he's still here with us.
And another one of my friends, David Lotherington. I really trust you guys on that because I've had experience with David. I've had experience with you. I've had experience with Anthony, right? But there's a huge issue that's surrounding the channelers and the people in the spiritual community, and they latch on to these crazy, wild ideas because they think that this reality sucks, right? They think that this reality is complete bogus and nonsense, right? So they're looking for any kind of escapism, and that comes in the form of a bunch of hopium, right? That we're going to ascend into the 5D, that aliens are going to come from Arcturus and Zeta Reticuli, all this stuff, and come and save us. And I got
Right.
news for you: it's not going to happen.
This is
One, I don't
where,
think that they're even in physical bodies.
yeah, right. That
Two,
not
Uh,
on our dimensional level, at least. And most of the ones that are out there that have been out there for a long time. And and sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm just going through this process with you. Most of the channelers I perceive that have done the work in public and done it for a long time, usually they're the ones that last because they have validity behind something or a lot of what is being channeled. And most of them will tell you, we have our own bodies, but it's not in your dimension. It's a dimension way above yours. You can't access it. You can't reach it. Things of that nature. So when you say out of bodies, you mean completely out of bodies, or are you meaning maybe a conscious or maybe a body, but in a different dimensional level, or how does that work?
this opens up a whole can of worms on the on the ET and the UFO front, because
All right.
I dug really deep into this topic, because just like everybody else here, well, not here, but everybody else that believes that ETs exist, and that they're visiting our planet. I was fooled into that, and I was fooled into that UFOs are aliens, that they're ETs. And when I really started digging into it, Rob, like I realized, from having Walter Bosley on my show, I've had Walter Bosley on my show twice now, and he's written several books about um, highly advanced technology that we were creating in the mid 1800s. It's called the Sonora Aero Club, and they were using a green spinning mercury additive to make their craft lift off. They were called airships. And this was verified because there's schematics, there's drawings of these crafts. And if you look back into the newspaper articles of the late 1800s, you'll see that there were people seeing craft in the sky. Right. And then you fast forward a little bit to World War II and the Germans. And Dr. Joseph Farrell has written several books on this as well, and I've had him on my show too. And the Germans were working on almost the exact same thing. They were working on highly advanced aerial technology, and that is with the Bellcraft, the Glocke Bellcraft. And when you're putting all these things together and you're researching all of this, and you look at all of the events that happened after World War II, then you start to put together the picture that it's us, and it's been us this entire time. And the cover up is that it's aliens and that it's ETs coming to visit us, when we've had the technology for decades now and we've been working on it. I mean, if you look at, and here's another thing too, the abduction phenomenon, right? The abduction phenomenon didn't happen until after World War II. The very first abduction that was publicly stated was after World War II, and that was Betty and Barney Hill, right?
Do you know about when that was? I think it was like 50, 51.
I believe it was in the mid 50s or early 50s. It could have been in, yeah, I think it was around there,
Okay.
around that time. And Barney, his very first statement, right? And not a lot of people know about this. His very first statement publicly was that it was the military, that it was the military that abducted him and Betty, and he saw people in military uniforms. It wasn't until after, and I think that Betty seen some kind of money to be made within this, alien community or the UFO community or ufologists. And then she started talking about that it's aliens. And this started happening around the time that they started getting regressed. Right. So
Really?
they had a regressionist come in And regressions are, I think, are complete nonsense, because it's a way to control the perception of the person that you're regressing. You can guide them, right? You can implant certain thoughts and ideas, and that's what the regressionist did to Betty. She was like, "Oh, are you sure it wasn't aliens?" Right? And then she started
Yeah.
saying that it was aliens. And then
I had
Barney
no clue.
and then Barney started going along with her as well. Right? So looking through all this stuff and looking through the history of ufology and the history of the technology, you only come to one conclusion, right? That aliens have absolutely nothing to do with UFOs. UFOs and aliens are two separate phenomenons, right? And when people don't know what's going on, and they don't know that we've had this highly advanced technology for a really long time, they look up in the sky and they see a craft and they automatically assume it's aliens, when that's not the truth. And then you have the you know the craft changing over time, right? A lot of the very first UFO reports were of tin can craft, was of saucers, right? They even called them Mexican hats because they looked like Mexican hats
Yeah, like a
in the sky.
sombrero. Yeah.
But now it's evolved into something completely different. Now it's not tin can craft anymore, right? And what's the reason for that? Why? Why would that be? Why would it change from just 50 years ago from a tin can craft to all of a sudden we have plasma morphing craft? They're light orbs. They're things that look like flying humanoids in the sky and like all this stuff, right? It's just the progression of the technology that we've created. And that's my personal beliefs through my research and investigating this topic and interviewing Walter Bosley twice, interviewing Dr. Joseph Farrell, and talking with others that have, kind of came to the exact same conclusion. Right? I'm not telling anybody what to believe. You can, believe whatever it is that you want to believe. That's not my role here. It's not the role of my show. My show was never to tell anybody what to believe. It's just to let people know the things that I've discovered and interview interesting people that think outside of the box.
Yeah, and
Right?
that's and these types of progressions that you see in these. I've always noticed that too, the progression of the styles of UFOs. I want to get your opinion because you've done a lot of research on this. What's your opinion on those types of orbs or lights that people see when they're in a group of people and only some see it and others don't? Do you think that that's some third eye picking up an energy of a being or of a higher dimensional thing, or is that a technology where maybe refracting light? Because you know, I can see the reasoning in your logic too, for the UFO concept and it being only human. Um, but I also have had so many people reach out to me with experiences where they're standing in a group of 20 people for a CE5, and three of them or four of them will see the exact same thing and describe it the exact same way, and the rest of them don't. So, do you think that that's an anomaly that might be more possibly alien than military, or do you think that's just military with different tech?
I think that's a manifestation of consciousness. I think that those people that get together in those groups are expecting to see something, so therefore they see something.
They're
Right.
creating it.
Yes, because our belief is very powerful in this 3D physical reality. Everything is powered by belief here, right? It's an egregorical reality. Whatever it is that you believe in, 9 times out of 10 makes it 100 times easier to manifest in your reality. Right. So whenever you get a group of people together that believes in the exact same thing, that can be very powerful and it can manifest it out of nothing. Right. That's how I believe that everything works in this reality. And once a few people see it, it gets continuously perpetuated because they go out and tell other people, and then that gets other people to believe in it. And then it just creates this carousel of, phenomenon.
Kind of like
Right?
a egregore, a collective belief that manifests because of the collective belief.
Yes. And the controllers and manipulators of our reality know this, right? That's why staging events, that's why psyops, false flags, things like that are so important because it shapes the belief in the event that they're trying to do, right? It doesn't matter if the event is real or not, as long as enough people believe that it is.
Right.
And that's how it's gotten away with. That's how they get away with everything that they do. They just put out something, get enough people to believe in it, and whenever enough people have believed in it, it becomes real. It becomes a part of their reality. And that's how it all works. That's how religion works. That's how I think that ETs work. I think that's how almost everything that you can possibly think of in this reality works, is all powered by our belief. And then that belief is siphoned off, and then it creates this egregore, just like what you said, and that's powered by our thoughts, ideas, and belief systems.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. That's something that I've, with my own channeling, and what Trev and Art have shared with me. That's something that always comes back to the center of what's going on with a person's personal experience and collective experiences. You've thought about it, you've been excited about it, you help create this experience. And I know there's always a difference opinion on how that's created, whether it's a mechanical, subatomic creation on a field of, physics that are on the smaller end of it, or if it's something that's, like quantum physics, or if it's something larger, like, what do they call it, like a false reality, or a programmed reality, where we're all in a program, and the more energy you put towards building a part of a program, it literally will manifest. Like in a video game field, you're walking and then their building pops up. And I've
Yeah.
heard arguments on both. My ideas tend to lean more towards the personal mechanics of the quantum field, and that's how we create things physically in our physical reality. But again, that's my belief too. So all of these things that are coming down to what you've investigated, what you believe, how you perceive this thing, and what you understand it as, are the UFOs intention then to make people believe that ETs are here and close and near? And if so, what is that going to do for them, trying to get others convinced to that?
It's a cover up and a suppression of the technology, right? Because they didn't let it out whenever they had it. They wanted to keep it secret. So the easiest way to still keep it secret is to blame it on something that's no one's ever seen before, right? It's a blame game, right? It's to blame it on somebody else, something else, another country, a different group of individuals, right? So if they can blame it that it's ETs that are out there abducting people, and it's ETs and these UFOs, and it's ETs that are coming to Earth and doing all these experimentations on us, then that lifts them from ever taking responsibility for it. And they will continue to do that until something big happens. They're never going to come out and with disclosure, because they can't. The only way that they can do it is if they have reverse engineered a if they've created a species of beings that can actually physically 3D walk around in our reality, right?
Okay, so
And
that's
they would roll that out, right? See,
right.
anything physical that you see in the sky, again, from my research and from the people that I've talked to and my thoughts, ideas, and beliefs on it, anything physical is us, right? Now there is other phenomena like the paranormal, and that's not to say that ETs don't exist. I believe that they exist. I just don't believe that they're here. I don't believe that they can physically be here in our 3D physical reality. I think it's impossible. There's no way for them to be here. And if any other species is here, like I do think that there are ancient species of beings that live underground, right? But that doesn't make them extraterrestrial. That makes them terrestrial, right? That makes them from here. And just because they look different than us and they're a different species of being doesn't mean that they're from outside the planet,
I see.
right?
And
And
oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, that's really it. They've been mistaken that because anyone looks up in the sky, they're like, "Oh yeah, I see a UFO. It has to be aliens." Well, one, why does it have to be aliens? Two, why does anybody even have to be on that craft? Right? We're
Right.
automatically assuming things that we absolutely have no idea about, just because our curiosity likes to project these things, and we think that there's a huge, giant cover up going on within the government, and that they're trying to hide aliens and ETs from us. When that's not the case. Every single time an event has happened, Rob, all of them. The 1947 Roswell event, the 1952 Washington Flap event with the UFOs over the White House, the Kecksburg event of 1965. Every time any of these events ever happen, there's always a person from the military, a high up individual, a general, or somebody from the military that comes out and says, we have no reason to believe that these craft that were seen was of extraterrestrial origin. Right? They're telling you straight up that it's not extraterrestrial. So if it's not extraterrestrial, then that only leaves one other option.
It's terrestrial, right?
It's terrestrial. So, but people don't believe that because they've been so programmed to think that aliens are actually here in physical bodies, and that it's been aliens this entire time, and that's the giant cover up. But they're believing in the cover up that's not really the cover up. The cover up is the truth, if that makes any kind of sense.
Yeah, well, that's what I was just about to say. Is I think people who hear that from a top leading military person, their first instinct is to say, "Oh, yeah, the government's telling us, yeah, they're just full of shit." And that's usually the response to most things that governments say to people in the community who look into the depth for truth of this and stuff. And I've seen some people in the chat too, who share uh, an opposite opinion of you, that they believe that ETs are in a physical body and that they exist here. And I don't think Ryder's trying to say that any of that's um, that you didn't have that experience. I think he's just expressing his perspective on why you might have had that experience. And I find too, with higher dimensional beings, these consciousnesses that we channel, I've had very physical feeling experiences and very direct and intimate feeling experiences. And that, to me, from a being who has a higher consciousness and who is in a higher dimension, who has a great ability with telepathy, those types of beings can reach out to you in that way and connect with you. And that's been my experience. So, uh,
Absolutely. I mean, the contact phenomenon isn't a physical phenomenon. No one has ever seen a physical ET that's literally in their room, that's physical as me and you as being in a room. Never heard anybody talk about that. Never
right.
heard anybody say that they met an actual physical ET that they could step out and shake their hand and touch them. Now, they have met them in a dreamlike state, or in through the use of psychedelics and mushrooms and LSD and stuff like that, and in the dream state and in kind of like a dazed state.
Yeah, like a
But
meditation or astral state, something like
yes,
that. Yeah.
but I have never ran into anybody that can legitimately prove to me that they've met an actual physical ET? And if they have, then how do you prove that it's an extraterrestrial from off the planet? Did it tell you? Did it tell
Right.
you that it's from Sirius, Arcturus, or whatever star system, the Palladian star system?
Well,
Right? There's
and
so many holes that can be poked in this entire phenomenon, right? And I personally believe that the extraterrestrial phenomenon is a consciousness phenomenon, right? And they've gotten people programmed into thinking that ETs and extraterrestrials are going to land in a ship and come out and be like, hey, we're here. And I believe that the only way that that happens is if it's a genetically engineered species that was created on the planet and is used as a disguise, as something that's off world.
yeah, and this is the thing too with the higher consciousness thing. I think that can feel just as physical beings too, if there's a state there too, and that's what I mean. Your explanation for it makes a lot of sense, and it resonates with a lot of people because that feeling and experience of what they do see, what's given to us on the videos and things like that, is very, very physical. And most of the experiences people have that are trusted experiences are from more dream state, astral state, things like that too. Um, so let's go in that direction then. When the consciousness of only terrestrial things would physically be here, why would that be? Why is there a buffer between Earth and all of the other possible places in the universe that things could exist? Why would we only be getting the like less physical things or the higher dimensional experiences? Do you think it's a
Because
buffer?
I
Oh,
think
go
that
ahead.
they physically can't come here. Right. You have to have a shot to even travel to Bali. Right. And that shot doesn't have anything to do with what happened in 2020, has nothing to do with that. You've always had to have that shot.
Right,
Right?
right.
Because the atmosphere, the conditions, the gravity, everything on this planet is different from any other planet. They wouldn't be able to come here and live in this atmosphere and have this gravity and all the surroundings when they were born and or not, maybe not born. I think a lot of them were, genetically engineered and genetically altered and probably live for a really long time, but they would not physically be able to sustain themselves being on this planet without any kind of shielding or protection. See, I think that the only way that they can be here is if they are using a doll avatar body, a engineered body that would be able to sustain these kinds of conditions on this planet, because every planet has its own kind of stipulations and conditions, a different electromagnetic field, a different frequency,
And different
right?
uses of pressure to the body and gravitational senses. You can't go to the bottom of the ocean for the same reason. You'll get crushed. You can't go to Venus for the same reason because you'd get crushed. So that makes sense. Yeah.
Exactly. So the only way that I can see them possibly being here physically is if there was a created doll avatar body that they can transfer their consciousness into, that was created within the conditions of this planet. Right. So they have like a skin suit, basically, just like how we are in avatars ourselves in this 3D physical reality. I'm in an avatar, Rob's in an avatar, everybody that's listening to this is in an avatar shell body, right? It's for a limited amount of time,
Right.
right? And I think that if they could create a avatar in this 3D physical reality on the planet, then they would be able to transfer their consciousness from wherever they are in the universe, regardless of where they are, whether they're in a higher density level, a different planet, different solar system, or whatever, into that doll body avatar that's been created here on the planet for them to inhabit and give them the ability to walk around, basically just like a shell, right? And I think
Yeah.
that's really what's going on in a lot of these instances. I think a lot of this is all developed from the exact same consciousness, and they are able to just put on a different avatar body for whatever agenda that they want to accomplish, right? They have different avatar doll bodies in their closet, just like we have different clothes, right? So
You
they could
see,
go to their closet and grab um, a Nordic skin, right? And walk around being a 8 foot tall, blonde haired Nordic. And then the next day, if they wanted to, obviously, they could slap on a Palladian skin and be a Palladian the next day.
see, now this makes a lot of sense to me, as much as it might not to people. But I've also been exposed to Trevenard of sharing these types of things with me for years. That when other races come to our planet, they are usually fourth, fifth, and sixth density beings, fifth, sixth, and seventh dimensional beings. And when they do come, they have to do exactly that. They have to create a physical body and transfer consciousness into a lower dimension. Otherwise, they can't be physical.
Yep.
So it would make sense that you would have to do that on Earth, whether it's internal or external technology. And they've also said that beings who exist in third density, it's extremely rare, like actual just a few dozen cases ever in the history of the universe that they're aware of beings who are in our dimensional level, the third density, fourth dimensional bodies that can actually leave their planet. That's kind of the whole part of this evolution of third density, is to experience the planet you're on until you become unified as a species. Then you can go to that next level, and
Yes.
then you're able to jump in ships and start going out to meet other other beings. It's kind of like what we do to puppies and kittens so that they don't fight with each other. You keep them on separate sides of the house till they get used to each other, and then you let them go. So this all makes a lot of sense to me, and actually resonates and connects with the things about how the consciousness would work and how physical bodies of ETs might exist on that level of avatar. So this all makes perfect sense too. And I think with the research you've done, you've looked at various sources. This is the thing I commend about you. This is the thing I commend about a lot of people in the community that I spend time with. Matrix Minds, yourself, Forbidden Knowledge News. You guys study all the fields. You don't just look at one part and say, hey, channeling is right, and these channelers are the only ones who know anything. You don't look at ufologists who believe in a certain thing and say, these guys are right. You look at all of it, and you take what makes sense to you, what feels right to you, and your gut feels good to you, and you create the experience of your perspective that you do. And I think all of us should do that. That's something Treb has talked about from the beginning of his time working with me, is, use your discernment, connect to your own internal guidance center, your higher self, and work from that level, because that part of you knows you better than any being in the universe could ever understand or know you. So that resonates with me, how you're approaching it, and of course, everything you shared tonight makes sense to me. I don't know 100% on a couple things if that aligns fully with my previous beliefs, but it's within the field of that energy, so it feels right enough to make sense to me. You know what I mean? And
Well, I
that's the
mean, look at
beautiful
it.
part.
Yeah, look at it this way. So the um the Washington Flap event of 1952, right, where the UFOs flew over the White House. There was a shoot down order for those UFOs. Now, why would anybody in their right mind at a governmental level give a shoot down order if they thought that they were an extraterrestrial species? Why would they risk going to war
With the
with
race
an
that could come here.
yes, right? And the same exact thing with the Battle of LA, too, which happened during World War II, which I think was 1943. It was 2 years before the war ended, and war ended in 1945.
Mm.
World War II ended. So it was around that time, and they fired at it. They shot rounds into the craft, right? And that tells me that, and it was pinging off of the craft. It was hitting something. It was hitting something like tin, like some kind of metal.
So there were actual sounds that were being heard from people when it hit.
Yes.
It's amazing. I
So,
wasn't aware of this story.
so that tells me, right? And that should probably tell anybody that's researched it or looked into it or that's listening that it's terrestrial. That, I sure as hell wouldn't, when I just got out of one of the biggest wars ever fought, which was World War II, 7 years later, fire on a craft that I thought was an extraterrestrial craft.
Yeah,
No way.
yeah, that's asking for trouble.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, when you look at all these events and you actually research it, you realize that there's a huge, cover up that's going on, and they're purposefully trying to blame it on aliens and extraterrestrials. And honestly, that's really been our fault. We've taken that and we've ran with that. Now, if you're talking to, people that believe that it's actual ETs and extraterrestrials, they'll fight you nail and tooth. But I'm telling you that anything physical that's in the sky is not extraterrestrials. Again, that's just from my research. That's from my thoughts and my opinions by reading the books of Dr. Joseph Farrell, researching how far back this technology goes. It goes to the mid 1800s. And then people might bring up too, oh well, I think I seen someone in the chat earlier that was like, oh well, there was reports of UFOs way farther back than that. Well, who's to say that that's not from a previously highly advanced civilization, right? That still doesn't make it extraterrestrial. That still makes it terrestrial. That makes it
Right.
from the planet.
Right, like the ancient Hindu scripts and the hieroglyphs on the walls, things like that. Yeah, you could very easily reason that those are just as earthbound as that. And the earthbound reptilian beings, from my understanding, have been around for way longer than humans have been, and their level of technology is amazing. And they could be running ships all the way back to the early human. They were already well developed before we got here. So yeah, that makes sense too. So that could easily be configured as that. Yeah. And this is the thing too. I really wanted to hear a lot of what you were sharing too today, because you had mentioned this to me earlier, and I'm like, well, that's a possibility. It definitely could be. But to hear some of the stories that you shared too, I had no clue about a lot of them. I didn't know about the Betty Barney Hill thing where they had saw a regressionist. And I agree too. Regression is a great therapy for people who have gone through trauma and have the ability to find some things that they've hidden from themselves. But you have to put your trust in the regressionist. And if the person is one who can just as easily implant a memory as they can help you recover yours, I mean, that you really have to trust and know the person doing it. And you know, h- uh, it's really all that it takes to channel. When I channeled, it was because I had taught myself how to by hypnotizing myself and getting rid of all those barriers of the psychic energy that people have access to regularly. So I really think there's something to that too, where we really got to be mindful of the people who are regressing, and know their intentions behind stuff. And that's kind of everything, in our community. One of the things that got us talking in the first place, was Galactic Federation of Light, and that was a big thing, that neither of us kind of trusted, and the reasonings were the same. Or at least from what I shared with you, it resonated, and what you shared with me, it resonated. But if I try to put it in a little basket, it's because it tells you don't do anything, you don't have to advance, you don't have to do any work. We're going to do all the work for you. We will come here, we will heal you, we will teach you. And it depends on what iteration you are. If you're talking 2008 through 2010, well, world disaster's coming in 2012, and we'll pick up the pieces for you, but we're going to take out the bad guys, and all of this. Up to today's iteration, which is we're still going to take care of the bad guys, and we're going to come and heal you and teach you, how to cure cancer and stuff. So people literally stopped doing what they were doing. They quit their jobs, they sold property, they put their kids' future inheritances up for sale because they wanted to make sure they're on the right spot of the earth that doesn't get tidal waved or whatever. It caused a lot of real world harm for this group, and so far they've given no results that are tangible or usable. The only parts that I see that they gave to the collective that were somewhat good is that we should be more loving people, and we should be, and I truly believe that there's no right or wrong way, because when it comes down to it, everyone has their own experience. And I believe, like you do, they create that experience within them, and in the collective. But when you're not approaching your life because you're depending on other things, people, experiences to do it for you, for me, that's just a big thumbs down. It's not going to help you. It's not going to get you to where you need to as far as evolution. So, what do you feel that this SSP, the MK Ultra, the ET thing, what do you think that this is doing to our community that makes you so adamant about speaking out against it and about it?
Well, it's kind of like what you were talking about. There's there's so much and disinformation within the community. It's kind of like what I was talking about when we first started, is that they have people. If these people had real, legitimate, classified information, they wouldn't be allowed to speak, right? They wouldn't be allowed to say anything. Right. So where this really started out with me was with the UFO and the alien phenomenon, right? That was the first part of this whole thing. And after my interviews and doing research and talking with people, like I said, I discovered that that there's a cover up going on. And then I'm like, okay, well, I felt satisfied with that. I'm like, okay, well, I think that, I've kind of figured that aspect of this out. And then there's another thing that the super soldiers and the SSP people talk about too, is that whenever they come back, right, from their 20-year space adventure, fighting aliens and reptilians on the Mars and the moon, and taking out bases and like all that, they they say that they all come back with some sort of abilities, right? They say that they come back with psychic abilities, telekinesis abilities, remote viewing abilities. All of them are really amazing remote viewers, right? So then I'm like, okay, well, let's dig to the bottom of this, right? Let's figure out what's going on here with this remote viewing stuff. And because they talked about the Stargate project, right? Like they all throw around the Stargate project, and that it's that it's connected to the Montauk thing, it's connected to the MK Ultra stuff, and that there's things to do with portals. They're strapped down into a chair, a portal opens up in front of them, they go through the portal, and they do all this interdimensional and extra dimensional stuff. And I'm like, oh, there's no possible way. So then I started actually researching the real Stargate project, which has led me down a completely different rabbit hole. And then I was like, okay, well, instead of, trying to, figure it out really what's going on, I'll just bring on all of the people that was in this government funded DIA special access program called the Stargate Project, where they were actually studying remote viewers, psychics, um, channelers, mediums, and all this. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm just going to start reaching out to all these people, right? Because I wanted to get to the bottom of it, the truth of it. And I really don't think people actually realize what I'm doing and how big of a deal this really is, right? And how seriously the government and Army intelligence, the DIA, and the CIA was taking remote viewing and psychic abilities. Right. So my first interview was with Angela Ford. She was in the program. Then I reached out to Lynn Buchanan, which was also in the program, and then Dr. David Morehouse, which was in the program as well. And then on Tuesday on my channel, I have Gail Graft on. Uh, he was the officer of the program from 1985, I believe. It's either 1985 or 1986, all the way until 1992. And he's going to be coming on my show. But anyway, I started going down this remote viewing and psychic rabbit hole, right? I'm trying to figure all this stuff out, and I realized that SRI, which was Stanford Research Institute, was studying this back in 1945. And well, it was established in 1947, and then SRI formally separated from Stanford University in 1970 and became known as SRI International in 1977. And this is when I believe it became funded by Sidney Gottlieb and the CIA. And this is the connection between the MK Ultra and the psychics and remote viewing, because there were 4 to 5 sub projects within MK Ultra that Sidney Gottlieb was head of. Sidney Gottlieb was the director and officer of the entire MK Ultra programs, right? And he was studying psychic phenomenon, ESP phenomenon, telekinesis, and remote viewing, right? And he was also funding SRI International, and SRI was headed up by Hal Puthoff and Russell Targ. And in the beginning, the test subjects for the remote viewing at SRI and psychic abilities were Uri Geller, Ego Swan, Pat Price, and Joseph McMonagle, and a few others, right?
Which they made the movie after the Men Who Stare Goes.
Well, that was Lynn Buchanan. It was kind of molded after the actual Stargate project. This was SRI before Stargate even became a thing. And but there was how the Stargate project got created was there was this huge event that happened where Ego Swan created this remote viewing technique called CRV remote viewing, which is coordinate remote viewing. And Ego and Pat Price remote viewed this top secret military installation in West Virginia, right? That no one had ever heard of. And it was done by the protocols of this CRV remote viewing. And when they discovered this, it news spread and things got around to the other intelligence community, because that military installation in West Virginia was a top secret military installation that was being ran to collect information from Soviet satellites, right? So all of the intelligence agencies' ears started to really perk up, and this evolved into more funding, right? And then the Army intelligence started the Stargate project, right? Which later turned into a DIA project in 1985. But Stargate wasn't the original name for it. It started out named something completely different. It gone under, a lot of different names: Gondola, Wish, Grill, Flame, Center Lane Project, CF, Sunstreak, and I think it was even called a Syndicate at one time. And the reason for the name change was when someone found out about the project, that Army intelligence and the DIA was using psychics and remote viewers and channelers and mediums to collect intelligence data. They just switched the name of the
They wanted
program.
to get far away from it as they could. Yeah.
Yes, and they would just switch the name of it and continue the operations. And in 1991, it was settled on the Stargate project, and I'm pretty sure Dale Graft was the one that created the name Stargate project. I'm going to ask him about that on Tuesday. But uh, it was named that until the project was eventually shut down in 95 by the CIA. It was supposed to be handed back to the CIA because the CIA was funding, they already funded this kind of project before with SRI, right? So they already knew about it, right? So whenever the DIA was going to hand it back to the CIA in 95, the CIA just came out and said there wasn't any good intelligence data that was ever collected from the program, and that was the main mission of the program, was collect intelligence information from other countries, this country. And remember, this was during the Cold War, so it was a huge intelligence special access program. But
It
then I'm
was a
thinking,
race
well,
for the Cold War. Absolutely.
why would they keep it running for 30 years, right? If they weren't getting any good intelligence data, right? It didn't make any sense to me, right? Why would any intelligence community or any branch of the military keep something going for 30 years if they weren't finding any successes with it? They never would.
Yeah, it
So
never makes that doesn't make sense. As wasteful as the government is when it comes to intelligence, they only utilize the assets that are going to be most efficient. And I do want to let you know too, we're getting a little short on time. So after we finish this story, we'll move to the tail end of the show. But please go ahead and finish sharing about this program.
okay, I'll try and wrap it up here.
Well,
So
I know it's a deep one. That's
it's a super deep thing, and I'm still going on with it. I still have several people to interview that were actually a part of this program, and I'm just now really putting a lot of this stuff together and making sense of it. But I interviewed Lynn Buchanan. You can check that out on my channel. He was, verified in the Stargate project, the Army Intelligence Program, and later the DIA Intelligence Program, and that's who the Minister of Goats movie was based after. The character in that movie was even named Lynn, right? So I'm interviewing him, and I'm asking him about all of the different styles of remote viewing, right? I'm going through, coordinate remote viewing, controlled remote viewing, and all these different ways to remote view. And I get to this question, and I'm like, okay, well, if you can remote view something that's happening in the past, the future, or whatever, anywhere that's going on in the world, and all you really need is a picture of that thing or the coordinate of that thing, then can you control somebody with this? Right? Can you implant thoughts and ideas and beliefs into someone's head through remote viewing? Right? And he said that he was approached by the Men in Black to they asked him if he could basically kill somebody with his mind. And he obviously said no. And then I asked him, I'm like, okay, well, I know that you said no, and that you wouldn't, kill somebody with your mind. You wouldn't psychically assassinate them. But could you have? Could you have killed this person that they want to take out with your mind? And he said yes. He said that he could. And that just opened up a whole other can of worms to me, right? Because if you can psychically kill somebody with your mind, I was really just gauging the extent of the abilities with Lynn Buchanan, right? I'm trying to figure out, how far does these abilities go, right? Then I'm like, okay, well, they shut down the program in 1995, and then I'm like, there's no way that they just dropped that whole thing. It had to have evolved. It had to have turned into something else, right? I had to change from just collecting intelligence information into another application. And I think that they found that application. And I think that the project went even blacker or more black than a special access program, to where basically no one even knows about it, right? And they couldn't carry the people that were previously in the Stargate project into this new program that they were wanting to start. So the intelligence gathering through remote viewing and intelligence information that they were collecting turned into something different. And
Something way different.
yes, way different. And it turned into a psychic assassin program and a psychic influencing program,
So
right? Because
basically, these guys could create a psychosis in someone or create the same effects that the MK Ultra would, but they don't have to use chemicals. They don't have to keep someone in a state of physical arrest and detainment. They don't have to go around influencing their daily lives physically with people and ideas. They can just psychically implant those thoughts.
exactly, exactly. It's the perfect. It's the you if you can do that and it actually works, then you've created the perfect assassin, because there would be no trace, there would be no evidence. And then that evolved again for me, right? Then I'm thinking, okay, well, okay, let's say that you had someone that was really hostile, or someone that you just really wanted dead, and you wanted it done the fastest way possible, right? You would just take them out, right? But another way to do that, which creates way more upheaval and a lot more chaos, is to psychically control or psychically influence an unsuspecting person to do the murder or the assassination for you. So you're not uh, literally killing the person with your mind, you're influencing and controlling somebody else to do the killing and the assassination for you. And that creates the biggest amount of chaos possible, right? That creates political upheaval, that creates all of these other. I had my friend Shane Sador use this example, and I'm just going to reiterate it here because to try and make more sense. He said the difference between just outright killing somebody and having somebody else to kill someone is like having Osama bin Laden just die in a cave. That's not very exciting, right? Osama
Right.
bin Laden just died in a cave. Like, who cares, right? But what you want to do is you want to have SEAL Team 6 go in and take him out, because it
Right.
looks optically way better. And we can go, hoorah, United States. So the same thing applies to what I'm talking about with these psychic assassins. It's way, it looks better whenever you when someone else does the work for you and the person just doesn't outright die.
That's actually an amazing example too. That um, I'm trying to think of the word they liken to with the Osama bin Laden analogy. That's it. That analogy is beautiful, and I hate to stop here, but we're actually getting ready to go past our time for the night. Before we get to telling people how to find you and how to follow up on the story with your next interview and all of the ones that you've done in the past and all that, I want to play the lightning round with you so that these people get to know you as a more than just the raised by giants man, just more than the investigator researcher that you're doing. I want them to know you on a human level. It's very benevolent questions. If you don't want to answer one, you don't have to. But we'll go through and we'll just, I'll ask them, you answer them quickly, and we'll nail them through. What's your favorite color?
Red.
Red. Beautiful. What's your favorite food?
Shrimp.
Shrimp. Nice. You're a bubble gum man? The
Bubblegum.
bubble gum shrimp. Yep.
Oh no, I like shrimp scampi. Red Lobster is like I go there all the time when they have the all you can eat shrimp. Like I'll
Oh,
eat. Last time I went, I ate 80 shrimp scampi. They just
look.
like kept bringing them. I'm like, keep them coming. I'm gonna destroy them. But my record is 180.
Woo! You don't mess around. I'm glad you don't have like a predisposal for gout, man. My dad couldn't even go around shrimp for too long because his ankles would swell up and he'd feel like he's walking on glass. So
I
uh,
love it. Any kind of shrimp, I'll eat it, any of it.
that's amazing. What's your favorite band and or song?
Ooh, that's really really rough.
Yeah.
I just had my Spotify end of the year playlist come through, and embarrassing to say, but Machine Gun Kelly was my number one listened to artist of 2022. But as far as like a genre, I don't have like a specific band, but I listen to a lot of metalcore and metal music. I was just listening to August Burns Red earlier whenever I went to the store, and people and bands like that. Metalcore music.
Have you ever heard, and normally I don't do follow-up questions, but personally for my own curiosity and satisfaction, have you ever listened to like Brujeria or Cannibal Corpse, like death
Cannibal
metal?
Corpse, Cannibal Corpse, for sure I've listened to, but the death metal, uh, it's kind of different with me, and like I can listen to it, but I can't listen to it for like long periods of time. I like some singing in my music too, so I like the bands that have like screaming and heavy vocals during the verses, and then during the choruses is really awesome melodies and really catchy choruses, sort of like Beartooth. I really like Beartooth. Beartooth is a fantastic band, and of course, like Devil Wears Prada, Suicide Silence. I used to really be into Suicide Silence, and they're not so much singing; they're a lot of screaming. But yeah, Under Oath, of course. Just metalcore bands like that that have screaming during, because I like that brutal screaming. I actually used to be a vocalist of a band, and I did the metal vocals in the band. So I love the metal screaming during the verses, and then the nice, pretty, catchy singing during the choruses.
Well, if you ever have any stuff from your band to put up, you should share that, and if not, at least share it with me because I'd love to see that, man. I love my.
Yeah,
All
I'll
right.
send it to you.
So, what is your what's your favorite place to be in nature that you've ever been in the world, or a place maybe you want to go that you just enjoy the beauty of the nature you're around?
I really like this place in California in Dana Point. There was this amazing like reef uh, thing there in Dana Point, and you could walk around it. It was like this big giant cliff that had beautiful rocks in it and stuff, and you could find like crystals and clear quartz and rose quartz and everything that was just sticking up out of the wall, and you could just go pull it off of the wall. And then if you walked all the way around it, there was this big giant like natural cave that you could get into that actually wrapped around the entire place, which was really cool. You could only get in it at certain times when the tide was really low. If the tide was high, you wouldn't even know that there was a cave there. So yeah, that was my favorite place to be.
Oh man, that sounds gorgeous. Last question. What's your favorite childhood memory?
Favorite childhood memory. Mm. I would say probably going to Toys R Us as a kid with my dad. That was a lot of fun. Sometimes he would, wake me up on the weekends and be like, "Hey, we're going to Toys R Us," and it was the best surprise. It would happen like, once or twice every couple of months. It was amazing. Really good memory.
Oh, that is amazing. Yeah, and kids nowadays will never know that joy of Toys R Us, man. That place was like a legendary place for us.
Yeah, it was amazing. They're all shut down now. They all went. I think they went bankrupt, right?
Yeah, they're gone, and Babies R Us was something that came way later. But yeah, from what I understood, I know all the ones around here are shut down, and I'm pretty sure nationwide as a company they went belly up around 2008 when the economy dipped. So yeah,
Yeah,
it's
Radio Shack kind of went out with
yep,
Toys R Us
yep.
too.
Big Lots. There's only a couple of those around too now. It's crazy, man. This
I miss the
landscape
music
in our
stores,
local area.
dude. The music stores were some of my favorite stores to go into. Like FYE, we had this little. There used to be this music store that was called On Cue, and then On Cue was bought out by Sam Goody, and then FYE bought out Sam Goody. But yeah, it was that was some of my favorite places to be because they had everything. Had like the action figures, CDs. Back then it was VHS tapes and also like video rental stores. Used to be so many of those. I think there's only one Blockbuster left. One Blockbuster left, and it's in
Uh,
Oregon.
that's
Yeah,
depressing as hell, isn't it?
yeah. Used to love
They were
Blockbuster.
great places. The music stores too. I know what you mean. We had one in Kalamazoo. It was iconic and it was beautiful. And that got shut down well before 2008, but it was still a beautiful place. We're gonna get to sharing your stuff with everyone. Before we get to that, though, I do want to let everybody know um, that Matthew is going to be doing his show tonight on the Matrix Minds. If you're coming from another place, such as our YouTube or our Enlightenment Evolution Hour Facebook page, go over to the Matrix Minds. I'll post the link in the chat, and I'll also post that in the comments. But go over there and check out. He's going to be doing Ancient Kemet, a Kemet. We are not the modern man. That's the subject tonight, and he's going to go deep into that. So check out that, guys. First of all, I want to tell you, uh, hands down, I appreciate you coming on. I know in some of the channeling communities, metaphysical fields, not everybody agrees with what you're saying. They've got their own things. I resonated a lot with a lot of what you shared, especially about the UFO physicality and consciousness and the way that things work. It's very in line with the way Trevor Nardiff taught me. I probably believe that there probably has been a few, at least, physical things, ships that have come in that may not have been from Earth, but I can definitely perceive the whole thing over. I think, and in my perspective, at least 90%, maybe more, are definitely government. And then on top of that, we have no way of knowing anything about if they're terrestrial beings like the Earth reptilians or any other consciousness beings that live here that we have no clue of because we don't know most of it. We don't even know what's in the bottom of our oceans, for God's sake. So there could be a race of beings just living there. We see ships coming in and out of there all the time. So tons of insight, tons of things you gave me to think about and to examine, to talk to Trevor Nardiff about too. And I just love you, brother, because you go for that experience of finding aspects of all. And this is why I said, you're one of those people in that group, the same as our Matrix Minds Matt, and the same as Chris over in Forbidden Knowledge News. You guys learn every aspect of all these subjects and then put them together and find that way to express them. That's beautiful. So thank you for doing that. thank you for coming here. I know you're a busy dude. I know you got a lot of things that you're doing. And thank you for being a good friend, man. You've always been really kind and really loving and really appreciative of all the things that you've shared too. So thank you for coming tonight. And I want to give you an opportunity to let everybody know how to catch your show, how to communicate with you or connect with you. If they have a perspective that they might want to share with you, anything like that, how do they sink into your work? Oh, I can't hear you, brother. I don't know if my internet's acting up on me or not. Or maybe my headphones just aren't. Can you guys hear Ryder? Um, I can't hear you, brother. I don't know if you're speaking or not. Let me double check, make sure. Okay, no, you're in here. Um, okay, nobody can hear you. So check to see your microphone settings too, or maybe your internet just is slowed up a little. If you want to jump in and jump back out, you can. I've got all the links for Ryder in the if he can't make it back, guys, before he says his good nights and shares his information. Um, all the links that he wanted to share are down in the description. But I always do want to give him a chance to say, so I'm gonna wait here to see if he comes back. Um, and I'm gonna double check my Facebook Messenger for him too. Um, 1 second, guys. All right, I'm just communicating with him through there. Uh, all right, and it does take a minute to. Oh, power went out. Ooh. All right. I'm gonna ask him if there's anything he wants to say. Uh, sorry, guys, for typing in your ear. This happens with live shows, live technology. Yeah, sorry, guys. He's typing me a message now, and I'll share the message. And Kalina's been posting the links regularly too. While I'm waiting for him. The links are all in the description. I'm trying to look back up. YouTube.com/C/ raised by giants. Rokfin, Rokfin. And then there's the Rokfin.com/raised by giants Spreaker. Dot HTTP. Oh, sorry, that's HTTPS. And so, sorry, guys, it's actually Raised by Giants YouTube link. And then the Rockfin is Rockfin Raised by Giants. And then the Spreaker is just a page link. I can't say all those characters. Yeah, you can find him on all those things. We'll make sure the links are there. He wanted me to let you guys know he appreciates everyone in the chat. Much love to everyone and good night. Uh, and he's sorry that the power went out. He definitely wanted to join here to end up with you guys. So anyway, that is the show tonight, guys. That is what's going on. Make sure if you are interested to go to the Matrix Mind show on Facebook, the link will be there in our description under the Matrix Mind Media. And we'll make sure to put it in the pinned post on the comment section. Thank you all for hanging in there. I know it's rough when a lot of people get together and the belief systems from everyone are a little bit different. And I think talking these things out are a beautiful thing. Thank you guys for being civil. Thank you guys for doing it in the chat. When we're all looking for the truth, like Kalina said in the chat, when we're all looking for truth, we're going to be passionate about it. So thank you guys for your love of being here. Thank you for your support. We are here at the Enlightenment Evolution Hour every Wednesday evening. We live stream from our YouTube channel. This one right here, we're live streaming from our Facebook, the Enlightenment Evolution Hour page. And also, very importantly, the Matrix Minds has allowed us to simulcast at their channel. So, all of you from the Matrix Mind, I know you guys come in. and you're looking for Matt and you get me, I appreciate your guys' patience, tolerance, and love. You guys have been an amazing group of people that I've gotten to know and really appreciate too. So thanks everybody for showing up tonight. Come here next week. I believe we either have Ruben Langdon or we will have a good friend of mine. And I'm trying to make sure that this is the case. I'm trying to look real quick. Um, oh, that's really horrible that I don't have this all hammered out, guys. But we're going to either have him or Miguel Mendonça on next week, and I'm not 100% sure which, but I will make sure to do that. And if you want to get updates for the show, then go to facebook.com/the Enlightenment Evolution Hour. If you type in the Enlightenment Evolution Hour, it's the only one that exists. That's a page. There's a group and a page. Join the page. That's where we put the links. Stay posted, guys. ET Whisper stuff will be coming out too soon. I love all of you guys. Thank you so much for being here as a part of the Enlightenment Evolution Hour, as a part of the Enlightenment Evolution Network, the Matrix Mind Media, Forbidden News, Forbidden Knowledge News, and Conscious Awakening Network. We are grateful for all of you guys. Thank you guys. Love you guys. And we'll see you next week at 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 Pacific on the other side, guys. Love you. Good night.